Let's do logistics in a moment and focus. Do your centering, grounding, arriving. And set your own intention for this space. Connect with what your intention is so you can put your attention with your intention. And I invite you to bring in the bright principles you want that will serve your intention for this space. Reverent love.
Presence.
Courage. Authenticity. Transformation.
Healing. Evolution.
Clarity.
Being a yes.
Integrity.
Yildiz, yours again.
Being a yes to what is.
Thank you.
Discovery.
Discovery. Thank you. And I've already set this space up as a transformational archetypal space of learning, growth, fun, discovery. Sonia, I've never said hi to you before. Where are you calling from?
Portugal.
Portugal.
Hello.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm the deer.
Greetings.
Hello.
Thank you. So what I'd appreciate is, because different people had different reasons for coming here, as succinctly as you can, what interests you about our exploration space today? Bringing it back to you and how this space can serve your fears.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just, I guess the other pieces is like responding to people in a way that, yeah, that I'm meeting them still where they're at, and yet keeping my level of radical responsibility, and how to do that without too much sword. It's alive in me. And yeah, and there's also something around, there's a limited knowledge around different traumas.
That you may not have been cautious enough. Okay, lots there.
Yeah.
And so I don't get into my hurry up driver. We may only skim the surface today, and I'm very passionate about this topic and willing to offer more spaces. So if you don't get what you want today, Annika, we're in the same time zone, and I'd love to reconnect with you.
I have no expectation.
Okay, thank you. So please, if you can, turn what your fears are into how you think this space could serve where you're at in your space holding.
I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and also like in a car at the moment, unavoidably. But super keen to be in this conversation because I'm passionate about healing, and I think that the language around trauma from modern culture is really limiting. So I'm looking for possibilities of how to work with people's emotional experiences in productive and healing ways.
Thank you. How to work with people's uncles in emotional and effective ways. Thank you, Kiri. Thanks for getting up so early. Others. Go, Martina.
After I made this healer shadow process with Yildiz and Katrin in summer, I have this, I know that in my healing, when when I'm holding healing processes, I have this tendency to let my shadow catch the people and pull them where they don't really want to be, because I am convinced that this is where they should be. And this has to do with this overstepping that I think, and that really happened to me in the process, that I was convinced that the woman had a experience with sexual abuse, and I went with her in this direction, and she didn't come back after the process. And I have a big fear when I somehow notice that there is a trauma, and I think it could be something in that direction about sexual abuse, then how can I handle that without my English, how can I handle that? Is that clear?
My summary is how to have really clear contracts with what the person has a yes for.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Martina Ricarda.
So many things for me too. And yeah. And even also with severe bodily traumas like car accidents, repeated car accidents, or how to serve the people that they come back into into life, in the end into life. Out of
How
society.
to heal the physical body, Yurdis?
Yeah. What?
Did you say how to heal the physical body?
No, not the physical body, but the persistent trauma, emotional trauma, energetic trauma of, for instance, not only sexual abuse. I know several women with that topic, but also with heavy physical trauma, like heavy car accidents with almost death.
Yeah.
And repeatedly, I have a woman with repeatedly having so awful car accidents.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This topic's getting bigger by every check-in.
Yeah. No, and well, my biggest fear is really to overstep or to be too cautious and too careful, or I feel very, very uncomfortable and unsafe, which is a good position, but on the one hand, and on the other hand, my system starts easily blocking myself.
So you're
freezing.
Sorry, is it my internet? So you want to know how to not be too cautious and not overstep, Martina.
Yeah.
That continuum. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Yurdis.
What Jordis and Martina said is a similar experience to mine. And I also got the feedback of, this is my fear of getting the feedback of pushing people to their limit of during a space being held by me and fellow space holders. I got the feedback of asking that it's a value and also something that is sometimes dangerous in a way of not feeding the space of my questions being putting spotlight on things that don't have the space in that specific context. And it's also this balancing of feeding the space and it shifting the space into something way different, and this possibilities of balancing it and navigating it consciously. And my fear is also about mixing contexts. Like, this is a separate thing of I wanted to initiate with other people. We initiated a space for healing from sexual trauma that happened in our friend group, I would say. And when that happened, all of us wanted to take responsibility and do something, because the person who experienced it wanted possibilities for changing that. And this was people out of PM context, and when mixing the spaces, it didn't serve the space. And I would like possibilities of how to work and how to heal with people that don't have the matrix, I would say. And is it possible to space hold in a group where I'm not a space holder, but a person that has like this equalness with others of my tools are a proposition and not I am a space holder, so I have this I carry the flow in places, I would say. Is it still possible? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. So two things, the aspect of how to be a community when a trauma's happened, how to speak up. Is that what you were saying, Kayla?
Yes, are there possibilities for having like step by step what to do?
When you end up being the default space holder because you're in the space, even though you've not been an appointed space holder.
No, it's about us as a community wanting to take action and do something, because the person who experienced the like boundary crossing or something asks for that, and we all end up in a space of we all want to take action, so there isn't one space holder for the space.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, juicy. Sonia.
I have a similar intention as Kiri. I want to learn. I want to know more about trauma and what is being done in the PM context. And also I share some of the fears of overstepping and going into a place that it's not okay at the moment. So the question that you brought, how to have really clear contracts for what a person has a yes for, that just brought clarity already. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sonia. Wow. Yodis, one book I recommend for your topic by Richard Skeer, S-C-A-E-R.
A-E-R, yes.
So he's talking about the effect Someone can have a little car accident, little whiplash, and his research shows activates any previous traumas, previous UNKLEs. So that's it. The body bears the burden. So draw 3 concentric circles. The first circle in the middle is the comfort zone. Out here, the next circle is the learning zone. And then the third circle is the overwhelm zone. And for me, it's really important that the person takes responsibility and doesn't stay in their comfort zone and moves into the learning zone, but not into the overwhelm zone. Because I can call myself a PM heretic here, as in I have a different opinion. For me, there's 2 kinds of liquid states. There's the one that it's just enough learning that the person doesn't go into overwhelm, which is the same as flooding, neurological flooding or freezing. You're nodding, Sonia. What are you thinking as I say that?
I'm thinking of myself as I've been like diving since last May into this liquid state. I did an ETV in the lab, and then I went into gremlin transformation and the marathon intensive EHP for 2 weeks. And I started having this question, is this too much for me? And I had this sense of something is breaking, and I don't think it is my box. It was something else. And as you were explaining and giving these distinctions of comfort zone, learning zone, overwhelm zone, it landed. And I think that I touched something very important to me. So that was why I was like smiling. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been doing Reclaim Your Warrioress with women who've no PM experience. And part of my research is when they don't have much matrix, so that I don't activate their freeze mechanism when I'm offering these spaces, I found it really important to, first of all, get a clear contract. Are you willing to lower your numbness bar 2%? So this is, for me, how to find their yes. Yes, they are. Okay, are you willing to experiment with feeling 2 or 3% anger? Again, I get a yes. For those who don't want to, it's been really important that we have a space for their fears to be able to be expressed. And that's been extremely transformative. I'm scared of feeling my anger because.
And how, I guess what comes alive in me is how I have, like, I understand what you're bringing and I enjoy the contracts. And how long do you go there with until it's actually the gremlin that's continuously stopping the transformation there? Like, when do you know that it's not an ongoing survival pattern that's alive, stopping the next step?
Yeah, I love the question. How do you make that distinction between gremlin box and a healing space? For me, because I've done about 11 of these now this year, it's looking at their delay switch. So the reason I've only gone to 5% anger with some of these women is to see the effect over the next few days and weeks. Because those who use freeze as a survival mechanism, I want to see the impact over a few days. And for me, that's been a responsible space holder. So some of them will go quite liquid or memories will come up. So I'd rather err in the first few months of doing 2 less than more than their nervous system can integrate. Does that answer your question, Annika?
Yeah, it does. And it does seem to be that yeah, like with the research or with doing it, you will then get a feel for it, or I just don't have the background and maybe to really recognize. Yeah, it's like this. I mean, I know my own nervous system, so I have a story. I should be able to recognize when things are going beyond. And yeah, just
Well,
finding
that's an important point. You should be able to recognize when you're going beyond. The person won't either. So there's there's more than two particular defense mechanisms in the brain. The sympathetic nervous system. So that's the energy, the adrenaline system that gets things done. Parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. However, for someone managing UNKLEs, they have got both operating at the same time. And a useful analogy is a car. They have the accelerator of the sympathetic nervous system flat to the floor. And they're using the parasympathetic as brakes, which results in the freeze mechanism. So they actually, although they don't look like anything's happening, Annika, they're skidding. It's not always easy to tell if someone has that freeze mechanism operating. So I would still err on doing less and seeing how they are over a few days, then blowing their fuses.
And do you do that with the whole group? Because from my experience, I let people go wherever they feel comfortable going. So some people might go to 20 and others might stay at 5. And I tell them that's completely fine. And I stay alongside the ones that are lower, and I stay alongside the ones that want to go.
Absolutely. Some of them have got much more matrix. And I'm doing it at the combat center. So there's pads and pound and ground. So those who know they're ready, Sally, who owns the combat center, goes and does much more of the physical. And Alicia and I, we take it step by step. The key thing being leaving the responsibility also with the person to self-regulate. This is crucial in working with UNKLEs.
I have a question. May I?
Go, jump in. This is the
question about that skidding, what you call skidding. What is I understand that example with the car. So when you are driving and going on the brakes together, the skidding comes. Yeah. And what are the symptoms of skidding in a person? What is that? What is your
complete
experience?
freeze.
Freezing, okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
In my experience, it's also can be also something like being confused.
Definitely. Yes.
Mm.
And
Being confused.
Experience,
Go, Yildiz.
and in my experience, also some mixture of feelings like hysteric reactions.
That's not my experience at the freeze. That's more when the numbness bar comes down, and then we're into flooding and mixed emotion.
Yeah, and when both comes together, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic in the same. So one hand freezes, one hand absolutely wants to go further.
Yes.
This is when I mean there comes sometimes weird hysteric reaction.
Absolutely. Mixed
Of like,
emotion.
oh, I don't know what to do, so something like that. So yeah, this very
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is
my thinking is there's less parasympathetic, putting the brakes on, then the numbness bars lowered a little, and then the mixed emotion for hysteria. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Did you get the answer to your question, Martina?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments, questions so far?
Is there a way to check in with the person where we are in the zones, or is it just our observation?
For me, it's both. So first of all, giving them the map before I hold a Reclaim Your Warrior race. Because then if they've got the map, they can begin to monitor. So stepping just outside their comfort zone if it's their first visit. So that part of that. And then for me, paying attention. Are they in this present moment? And coaching, I coach them. Hey, where are you? Notice if you're in this time and space. So watching for where their attention is. Kalik. Am I saying your name accurately?
It's Kiewek.
Like a W sound. Kalik. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I offer another map?
I just want to respond to something I heard in Annika's question about gremlin, and something about like just being with them in their defenses, like rather than trying to push them past the gremlin or fight the gremlin. It's like if the gremlin's coming up, that means that they're already activated. They're already, that survival mechanism is activated. And it's, I feel with people with those kind of experiences, they've had their survival, particularly with experiences of sexual trauma, they've had their survival mechanism overridden by other people. So it's particularly important not to push them at that point, but to offer them the choice.
Thank you, Kiri. What a gem. Yeah. For me, part of space holding this kind of experiences is honoring, knowing when the person's survival mechanism's alive, and really inviting them to honor it. It served an important purpose. Thank you, Kiri.
Janet, picking up from Kiri's question, do you notice any similarities or anything in particular in the gremlin strategies with the women that have had some kind of trauma?
How do you answer that question, Sonia?
I have a sense that there is something and that they must be huge.
So I'm much more interested in your research to that question.
Thank you.
Will you do it? And if we meet again, bring back your treasures.
Yes, I will.
Okay, an acronym. Kiri knows it. PIES, but write it this way, vertical. PIES. If any of you can't understand my Lancashire accent, do speak up, won't you? Okay, so this acronym, I'm working backwards. S stands for self-regulating introjection, which is a psychological word. Translated into normal English, it's the driver behaviours. In Clinton's 122 ways to create ordinary relationship in his book, number 13 he speaks about the 5 driver behaviours. They are: hurry up, try hard, be perfect, be strong, and please others. Kiri's writing them out for us. Why this is important for me in working with UNKLEs is because if one of those drivers is active, the child ego state is also active. I taught transactional analysis to an international level for 20, 30 years. So I'm adding something that I don't actually see in PM yet. If there's an activated parent ego state, which is the same as introjection, they are synonymous. Parent ego state and introjection is the same concept. If there's an activated parent, there is an influencing child. Other way around. If there's an influencing parent, there's an activated child. And as you can see with my 2 hands, you can't really see the child ego state. But for me, they cannot not be both wired together. So why it's important for me that I'm on the lookout for any participants' parent ego state, their introjection, is because that's how they regulate from a survival mechanism. Any questions?
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like it is there in PM in the sense that, you know, it's really common as a trainer or a space holder, if someone gives a really strong box reaction to something, to ask, like, what are you feeling? And that what that's doing is like, that's the parent reaction in some ways. And you're asking like, what's underneath that, which is the child response.
Thank you. So to watch how they are currently self-regulating with the driver behaviors. Like, it doesn't make sense really that you're regulating by going fast, hurrying up, or you're regulating by being strong, tightening muscles, breathing shallowly. Somewhere it's not so logical. But for me, knowing, well, my research, those 5 driver behaviors are someone's self-regulating mechanism. Tell me which bits you don't agree with, or you're seeing it differently, or you understand.
Just to like what lands in me is like as a child, I haven't learned to emotionally regulate myself, so I'm regulating myself with a survival mechanism.
Yeah, but hurrying up, try hard. Yeah,
to then still have some form of continuum happening with my family.
Yes, Annika.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
This really lands in me, this these 5s in a way of activating the child ego state. Thank you for that. And I see the correlation between parent and child in a space. Like, these reactivities collide with each other, and they fuel each other.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Well, how do you continue when you find by outlooking that some of the people, and probably most of the people, will pretty fast react with those drivers or those behaviors, because this is the normal action you will find if you're sitting in a group. People will react with their survival mechanisms.
Yeah,
so how do you
good
address
question.
that? How do you break this up, or how do you shift? We would say shift in PM, wouldn't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So again, I look forward to your research on the question. I can tell you mine. I give them the roadmap of the drivers. These are the self-regulating mechanisms.
Mhm.
These are the survival ones. In order to be able to say self-regulating from the adult ego state is possible. But first, they become aware of the self-regulation they're currently using.
So, in other words, you give the distinction
Yes.
and the possibility of shifting. So
Yes.
give the distinction of the 5 drivers and of the parent ego behaviors, or so on, and then you give the possibilities of, there is the possibility to self-regulate from the adult ego state.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
for people who know they have a be strong or a try hard, actually all of them, for them to know to do less rather than more.
Mm-hmm.
If people have a be strong, and I can see from their tense bodies, do 10% less rather than 10% more.
Mm-hmm.
So by having the information in their intellectual body, they start to take responsibility for how much anger work they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Yodas?
Yeah, that's great.
I'm just wondering, is there anyone who doesn't have those drivers? Because everyone has that to a degree, right? Because who hasn't learned it? So it's really then checking how strong the driver is.
Whether it's strong or not strong, it's operating. And it's normal. It's a survival mechanism. And to learn how to be aware when it's active. Because there's no adult, well, it's a contaminated adult that's available.
Why do you say contaminated? Moment. Did you say contaminated adult or contaminated parent? No, you said contaminated adult, and contaminated by the parent ego.
Parent and child.
And child.
So I'm drawing. So I draw the adult ego state as a heart. So that's the adult here and now. It's contaminated, as in it's being occupied by the parent, the introjection, and the child. And because for me, theoretically, these two are always activated at the same time. That's why for me, the language is the adult's contaminated. Do you see it the same or different, Yodas?
Yes, I don't only see it as the same, I experience it also in myself, like this, again and again. And I don't like the word contaminated. It sounds, at least in the German, in my German ears, it sounds like so poisonous. But
Do you have a word you prefer to use instead?
Kiri, we had one word. What did we have? I don't remember it. Wait, it maybe comes back. maybe something like this mixed into, or yeah. I came up
like
once with a very fitting word, and it doesn't come back now.
Okay. So please find the words that make this stuff your language.
Yeah.
Occupation comes to mind. The parent and child are occupying the adult ego state space. So it's an occupation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've had similar and I let go because it's just a word, and at the same time I think if you mention contamination to someone for the first time, it's like as if it was bad. I've also had that. It's like, oh, it's bad that your child and your parent is in your adult because you're contaminated and you need to get it out. And so there is something in the language that doesn't support, if I'm not, if I'm already not in my adult, to understand, okay, it's just a word and I'm just moving it up. So, and I'm not, so
important point, Annika. On one level it's just a word, but actually no.
And if I'm in my adult,
motivate.
I can understand that, and I just whatever, my box has a thing, and
Otherwise the parent uses it to be not okay. Doing something wrong. Important point.
Exactly. Yeah, so it gets in such a spiral. Anyhow, I love the picture. Thank you for that.
What are you seeing as the picture, Yerdis?
Yeah, the heart. No, it's difficult to show.
No, I can see it. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah,
and that's not original to me. In order in honoring Charlotte. Oh, I'm in a different. I'll remember it. It's two other authors that drew the heart speaks to me. In order for copyright. If I remember the author's name, I'll let you know. What else is alive? I've done a lot of talking so far.
What I have been noticing from my research about my parent ego state and my child ego state is that there is this not constant, but an inner dialogue between the both of them. And it is this inner dialogue that creates the tension and goes into these survival strategies. And it is really hard sometimes to distinguish them both, because it's like what you showed, Janet, about the ants. They are like this. And being in the PM context and having the distinctions and starting to do this inner navigation with those distinctions, I begin to notice the dialogue. Like there's a you should and you're not good enough, and then there's emotions that come from both of them. So the parent is angry and the child is fearful and sad, and there's this thing going on constantly. So it brought me that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm going to grab a handout. While I do, will you write down the one key insight you've had so far? So this is the guy above the water with all the drivers. Can you see it enough? So if you draw your balloons above water, the drivers are what we can, the driver behaviors are what are noticeable. Underneath, Sonia, is what transactional analysis and the Goldens call the injunctions. They created 12 of them. Don't be you, don't exist, don't feel, don't be successful. I'll find a way to send this.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Please. For myself, some of those injunctions, maybe all, they are doorways for emotional healing processes.
Completely. Completely.
Oh, that's valuable. Cool.
So then what they're saying is that in the parent ego state, the interjection, our parents modeled these drivers and they're stored in our parent ego state. The injunctions, which are more non-verbal, are transmitted from our parents or caregivers' child ego state into our child ego state. So that's in response, Sonia, to what you're saying.
So the interjections are numb and the available reaction of the child.
They're transmitted non-verbally. So let me come back to the pies, Yurdis.
Yeah.
E is for the explicit decisions. They're the ones I could tell you verbally.
What does that mean? Explicit? Just explicit.
Explicit, I can tell you, I know, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I would be able to tell it to you with my intellectual body, that cognitive decision.
It's like the stories that you know you have about yourself.
Go, Kiri. Thank you.
Yeah.
Implicit, experiential conclusions. Conclusion based on experience, such as somebody might feel as an experience, I am bad. They wouldn't be able to articulate it so easily with their intellectual body. They are the conclusions based on experience. So I find these a harder plat. So this is a challenging, more challenging plat to untie, because it's the conclusion this person came to that have had uncles about themselves, a way of internalizing the experience to survive. I'm bad, which usually means, oh, I'm feeling bad because of what's happening out there. And these are the ones I'm cautious of when I'm holding Reclaim Your Warrioress. Why I would go more cautious with the new people.
Can you give an example for the explicit decision?
There's something wrong with me. I'm unlovable. The ones that, like Kiri just said, the ones that we know about, the stories we know we're running.
Okay, thank you.
And then the P, these are the physiological. So in the physical body, physiological survival reactions, such as the contractions. When someone's disappointed, a little child will usually turn away. So it's these innate mechanisms the body uses to communicate.
Physiological behaviors.
Survival reaction. Okay. So box reactions, yes. However, when working with uncles, I find it important to be watching out for these. So a slight shrug in the physical body, I'm paying attention to. Hey, what just happened in your body then? Is there something you wanted to shrug off? That's a funny English word. Do you know what I mean, Martina?
I don't understand it explicit, but I understand it implicit. Yeah.
So for me, working with these uncles, I'm really paying attention to the small communication, like somebody swallowing. I'm paying attention so that I'm really respecting what they've got a yes for and what they're not ready for. So clear contracting. Hey, I noticed you just swallowed. Are you willing to explore that? So these mini contracts for me mean I'm not pushing.
Yeah.
Kiri held a space and invited me to contribute. What did we call it, Kiri? Activate your adult. So we did 5 weeks of knowing when you're in your driver behavior. So this is a big topic. That's why I'm saying that. What's your comments? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
I think I feel when you hold space with and you have that knowledge, or even if you don't have that knowledge, but when you hold space and you give, for example, you hold space and you give people this distinction about those 5 mechanisms, then I see the possibility that you give this distinction while you use one of those 5. So you give this distinction because you want to be perfect, or you give this distinction because you want to please others, and you don't and you don't recognize it, perhaps.
I want to check I've heard you. Are you saying me as a space holder may be delivering this distinction from a driver behavior?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you'll find out though, because people will argue with you. If they can feel that it's coming from the parent, then you'll get the resistance. You'll get more resistance.
Yeah, I like that, Kiri, because in transaction analysis, one way of diagnosing which ego state you're in is to see which ego state gets activated in the other person. And if their child comes with some form of resistance or fuck you, chances are use it to reflect, hey, did I come from my parent driver? Yeah, thank you, Kiri.
That's a very good one.
Who just said that? Yodis?
I
What
did.
do you think? Tell me what's behind that.
Yeah, that's really, this is what I always, this is some of the parts I include in my being a yes for what is. So not being a no for the answers of my group members, but being a yes for the answers of my group members, and appreciating their fuck you, or their how do you say it? Starting to discuss it and to argue about. So being a yes for their arguing with the question, in which parent ego am I?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, because so for me from TA, 3 ways I know I or someone else is in their child is they adapt, comply, or rebel.
Yes.
So if they're rebelling with me, great, game on. Tell me about this. And then I will regularly ask, hey, what was it you heard? Did you hear a tone from me? So I'm using that to explore the uncles. So I like that. Thank you, Yodis.
Can you repeat those 3 you mentioned with rebel and
Adapt or comply? Comply, rebel, or procrastinate. And procrastinate for me is a yes, a no dressed up as a yes. The person's survival mechanism, they concluded that they can't say no, so they say yes and do no.
Thank you.
Where I feel this is really important in terms of UNKLE, and again, like working with people who might have experienced violence in their families, is that you know, you can't get a clear contract from someone if there's no clarity on their side. Like if they're not being upfront with you about their, you know, they've learned this strategy of like saying yes and being adaptive or compliant. Then when they come to that edge of like stepping into the learning zone and going liquid, they're gonna resist it because it's not been a clear contract from them.
Thank
So
you.
like that's how I'll apply that knowledge, is to be really vigilant in like, no, I want a genuine contract from you. I want a contract from your adult. I don't want child rebellion or adaptation. I want, yeah, or procrastination. Yeah.
Thank you. And for sometimes we spent nearly 2 hours of a 3-hour Reclaim Your Warrioress saying no to each other. I was really surprised how scared the women were to say no. So one woman would say, will you make me a cup of tea? The other one says no. So for me, that was the first part in Reclaim Your Warrioress. When did you first stop saying no? So it was a huge exploration, Kiri. Yeah. Others, what's your insights? What's your thinking? Where do you see it different?
I have like,
Go.
Yeah.
okay, my internet just froze up for a while. I was thinking about if someone comes up for an EHP, for example, and they are not aware that they went through trauma. And I'm saying this because it's my own experience. I wasn't aware that I was in survival mechanism until I began to do therapy for a very long time. And at a certain point, I realized that my normal state was survival strategy. And I was constantly very uptight and tense and living in fear mixed with anger. When someone comes up like this, and I notice the signs, what would be the best approach? Yeah, because for me, I discovered on my own by reading and doing therapy. And if someone shows up and they are not aware of it, how to go from there?
Important question. I like it, Sonia. That's why I've given you the PIES acronym. I'm a detective for the physiological survival reactions, the swallows, the turning away, the slight shrug, the contracting this way of the shoulders. So I'm really paying attention to the physiological communication, Sonia. Because if they don't know, they don't know. What are you thinking as I say that?
That, yeah, the first step is to pay attention, and that during the process, it will unfold, naturally unfold. And I think that it's mainly for the space holder, for me to be aware of it and paying attention, like you and Kiri said, and be very aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah. And helping
there was another key.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. There was another key which you, Janet, gave us, that was to address that what I detect or what I observe. Like, what are you really swallowing down? What is it what you swallow down? Or what are you shrugging off? And to see that, I see you swallow. So
see that attunement in itself, Yodis, is usually more mirroring than they've had. Hey, I noticed you just swallowed. Oh, did I? So that gives me a clue. They're not aware of their bodies yet. So simply mirroring for me is a step of healing.
yeah. Thank you. And if they have more matrix, they maybe say yes. Yeah.
If they're more matrix, it's a different picture. Then the emotional healing processes come a bit more smoothly. It's that braid, the plait, when it's at the physiological survival reaction.
I want to say something to you, Sonia, about what you said. In my case, there was a time when I
used that this weekend.
Janet, you were frozen.
I'm wanting to know the historical significance. Why was it a good idea to tighten your muscles? Why was it a good idea to not feel? And then the current psychological benefit. How is that currently active and serving the person? Were you able to hear it that time, Martina? Yeah.
I want to say to you, Sonia, what you said, that there is for me, there is a difference between knowing that I don't know and not knowing that I don't know. In my life, there was a long time, about I don't know, 20, 30 years, that I didn't know that I don't know what happened. And then there was a time that I knew that something happened, but I didn't know what it was. So I knew that I don't know. And then the remembrance came back. And that was the time when I was 50. And that was the time when I knew that I know. And so when you have a client in a process, then I think it's important to make this distinction. Does he know? Does he know that he don't know? Or does he not know that he doesn't know?
Thank you,
Thank you, Martina.
Super wertvoll.
And then again, honoring that mechanism. How creative to not know what's happening. And people will often go, was it a useful survival strategy to not know what you were knowing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, Martina, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and even when you don't know that you don't know that you don't know, there might be some of those physiological survival reactions.
Yeah, the dissociation from experience.
Yes, yeah. You
Thank
can work with that.
So why? Sorry, who's talking?
That makes totally sense.
Tell us,
So
Yodis,
the
what
body
sense
knows,
it's making.
yeah, that the body knows it, but the rest of the physical body knows it and makes signs, but the other bodies don't know it.
Yeah.
Well, it's been important
the
to
whole
forget.
system.
Yes.
So it so the physical body always will know it. The physical body won't forget.
Yeah.
It's stored there And the physical body may make more or less visible signs.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
yeah, it makes totally sense. The other 3 bodies, or the other 5 bodies, however, no, the other 4 bodies may not know that they don't know, or that they know, or wherever the state is, the spiral. Yeah. So thank you very much, Martina, for this distinction. That's really great.
Yeah.
I have a question. How, like, this is something that is alive in me throughout a lot of years of therapy and now PM, is in which body does the unconsciousness of dreaming is?
Oh, what a wonderful question. In which body is the unconsciousness of dreaming? Wow. I think we could have a whole other 90 minutes on that question.
Please.
There's so many topics here.
I'd like to come back to I did something that's been coming home really powerfully to me, yeah, particularly in the last couple of weeks, is there's all these stories that are like taboo, like, you know, really extreme violence, child sexual abuse, and even sexual violence. It's like modern culture doesn't want to talk about these things, doesn't want to know about it. And my experience with some of the things that I've witnessed in my life is, it's like, I don't talk about them. I don't talk about my really dear friend who killed herself and her 3-year-old son, because as soon as I say that, it's like I have to deal with the other person's reaction to that. And there's such tremendous power in having a person who can hold space for me to tell my story exactly as it is, for myself, on my own behalf. And this, yeah, I feel sad because I feel like it's such a gap in modern culture that so much pain could be alleviated, so much suffering could be alleviated if we were just able to really hear someone else's story on their own terms, without trying to fix it or without going into our own reactivity around it. Yeah, and that was part of what motivated me to like come to this conversation. It was like, yes, don't be fucking afraid of people's terrible life events. Like, give them space to be with that.
Exactly, agree. Give them space to be with it, and the space for people's experience. That's why I run spaces a little slower than I used to
I want to add something to that. I want to add something to it. There's the shadow side of that too, or another side, how this taboo story can be used, or the reaction to the taboo story can be used. That is, if I mention it, this, no, don't talk about this, don't talk about this. They use this reaction, at least I observed it, how they use it to manipulate the space. No, that story is too hard for me, I can't hear that.
And what have you done that works when that's in the spaces you hold?
Well, that was not in the situation of a held space. That was a situation when I talked about, for example, the suicide of my great-grandmother, whatever mother, the mother of my grandmother. And or it may be even another uncle who did suicide in his life. So they instantly stopped with this completely any further conversation, and manipulated completely the contact or whatever. It was not possible to continue. So it was not even my story. It was not my story. It was the suicide of my whatever, you know. But to mention only the word is already so taboo. And they pick the taboo immediately and stop everything or turn it somewhere. That was very interesting for me to observe how this whole story about taboo topics is really completely running modern culture.
And again, we could have another 90 minutes only on that topic. Because for me, my story is a little different than yours, Yodis, in that sounds like they're going to a shock response and mixed emotions. And because a lot of people don't have emotional fluency, they don't have the language, then part of me being a sorceress is offering possible words. Hey, are you shocked to hear that? Oh yeah, I am.
Oh, thank you.
Then looking at the shock response, then they're showing you the physiological survival reactions. Don't talk about it, contract. Don't talk about it being at the E for explicit conclusions. So the story I use, that it's a shock response, opens many doors for me when I'm space holding. Okay, we could go on and on and on. And as you can see, a topic that's high level fun for me, and I'm passionate about it. However, I want to honour, we finish at New Zealand 9:30 a.m. So my checkout statement, and I'd love to hear from each of you. The reason I call it UNKLEs, because in New Zealand language, it's called whakapapa, means family lineage. If our uncles are in front of us, we can't see here and now reality very well. Uncles, they're our ancestors, need to be at least at the side or behind. Unprocessed, neglected, key life events. And I endeavour to not use the word trauma anymore, so that people aren't giving their power away to some historic event. But in the now, they know what they need to do to process the neglected, to bring attention to what has been neglected so it can be processed.
Can you say that again? That uncle?
Unprocessed, neglected, key life events. Because then in the now, the person knows that, okay, you've only got something that's unprocessed. So we find space to process it. It was neglected, as in it hasn't had the attention it needed. So we give it the attention of these key life events. That's my checkout. What's yours?
What does neglected mean, Jördis?
Sprecht weiter. Continue. I come to the word.
It hasn't had attention on it.
Es ist mehr als vernachlässigt. Es ist verdrängt.
Thank you.
Verdrängt oder nicht wahrhaben wollen.
So will you do a 30-second checkout of one takeaway from our visit together today?
For me, it is joy, fun, and learning. And thank you all. Thank you very, very much.
Lovely to
Yeah.
meet you. I'm glad to have met you, Sonia.
I'm also so glad that I joined this group, and there is so much gold, and I would like to hear more. I would like to hear more. Thank you for
And what will you
sharing
do
that
about
comment.
it? How will you make that happen, Martina?
Meet again and talk about in which body the dreams are coming up.
Yes.
Still only warm, Martina. Not
What?
hot. You're still only warm. Where's the clarity and your proposal and what you want?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put something in the.
She's frozen. The
Okay.
picture's frozen. Ah, here you are again. Here,
No,
Martina.
the picture is not frozen, but I'm not ready to say that now, and I don't want to do it when I'm not ready.
I'm ready. I have a proposal right now.
Okay. Others.
Oh,
Oh,
My proposal is for us to meet, for us to create a study group around these themes in
Yes, Sonia.
every 2 weeks. It's a yes.
So that
That's-
makes it November the 1st.
please not at Monday evening. Next, yeah.
Okay, let's keep
Monday
the logistics out of the checkout. We'll
Yes.
sort it.
Yes.
I'll make a
please.
Telegram group of us. Okay.
Yeah. With Annika.
make an extra Telegram group.
Don't know yet, but let's leave logistics out of the closing.
Yes.
So
The checkout.
in addition to what Sonia already said and what Martina said, I am deeply touched by the observing the clients with all the reaction is in the different bodies and with the implicit and the explicit, implicit and explicit expressions, and on the same yes, I'm full of possibilities of how to address them, and I'm very, very happy about the I say it repetition, but for me, yes, it is a repetition, and it got a bigger clarity of the clear contract.
Yes.
And to renew the clear contract again and again, and from step to step to step, and to take baby steps in that. So
Thank you,
thank
Yadis.
you.
And that's when I use my warrioress. My intuition said that's as far as I go today. They might not want using my warrioress.
Yeah.
Yeah, go, Yadis.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the courage to make smaller steps.
Thank you.
And that old sentence, less maybe more.
From a neurological perspective, that's definitely my experience. In the beginning, anyway. Kiri or Kay.
Yeah, I'm driving, so I'm concentrating on the road, and piggybacking on what Yetta said, because that was the thing that really came through, like getting that clarity and paying attention to when the mouth says yes, but the body says no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
To, really commit to getting clarity.
Okay, work.
And to honor that, the honoring part is
absolutely honoring it.
Honoring it.
I feel so much joy from taking part in this call. I really checked the group chats, and this is just what popped up in me scrolling through it. I'm so glad that I ended up here today with all of you and met all of you, and I took so many notes, and I'm so happy to be able to go back to that, and so excited for our next steps in our team.
Yay! And do you want to say anything? I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
I'm the dear. Yeah. So I'm also, I also feel a lot of joy for this meeting. And I don't remember when last time I've heard so many important, significant questions. And I was even like more surprised that we found, or you found, so many answers for that. So thank you for that. And what I take from this meeting is I'm gonna keep asking this question and questions and keep looking for answers.
Thank you, team. That was the best breakfast I could have had.
Thank
And
you.
see you in another space. Bye.